Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the weekly MMA Cycles Market Update. Today is the 15th of May, 2024, and I am Gianni DePoci, your host. A lot going on in the cosmos this week and even into next, as well as some important moves in the market. So let's jump right into looking at a chart of the Dow Jones. The big news headlines over the past couple of days were the mixed inflation report. So yesterday we had the producer price index, the PPI report, come in above estimates. But today the CPI index, the consumer price index, came in at estimates. And stocks have responded pretty well to this news. You even had new all-time highs in the S&P cash. QQQ, the NASDAQ 100 ETF, made a new all-time high. And you can see here with the Dow Jones, you are about 40 points away from a new all-time high. Now, we started off this week with a conjunction between the Sun and Uranus. And whenever Uranus is involved, you need to be ready for breakouts either above resistance or below support. And our bias has been for a break above resistance. And later this week, over the weekend, we have Venus conjunct Uranus as well as Sun conjunct Jupiter. So the conjunctions are all taking place in the sign of Taurus, which rules stock. So this is a really important time for equity markets across the world. You know, you've already seen stock indices like the Amsterdam Stock Exchange and the London Stock Exchange make new all-time highs, and it looks like U.S. stocks are on their way to joining them. Now, we also have the start of Gemini season on the 20th next week, and then the Sun will trine Pluto on the 22nd. And this is important, I think, for the NASDAQ. So you can see the NASDAQ composite here. This is not the NASDAQ 100, but the NASDAQ composite finally making a new all-time high here. That's a good sign. But between all these Uranus signatures and then Pluto being in the sign of Aquarius, which is ruled by Uranus, you can see that technology is really starting to show some strength. And a couple of weeks ago, we talked about Apple stock. That's been doing very well, and it's significantly up off the lows. That low coincided almost exactly. Actually, it was the day before Jupiter conjunct Uranus. So really nice astrological reversal from a symbolic standpoint as well in Apple. Let's take a look at TLT, the long-term Treasury ETF. Seeing a nice bid after inflation coming in at estimates on Wednesday. So the big question in the bond market is whether a 6-year cycle low is completed in October. And so we're going to talk about that in much greater depth this upcoming weekend during the MMA mid-year webinar, which I highly recommend you check out. It begins on the 18th at 3 p.m. Eastern. But the question is whether this rally will last, especially going into Sun trine Pluto next week. Pluto rules debt, so you could see a reversal in this market by next week, especially considering the primary cycle scenarios we've been looking at are still generally bearish. Let's take a look at GLD, the gold ETF. You're close to making a new all-time high in spot gold, but I'm especially interested in what's going on in silver, seeing a massive bid here in SLV, the Silver Trust. And if this strength can continue through these Jupiter signatures, that's really a good sign. Usually metals don't like Jupiter, and if they're rallying during a Jupiter signature, it's a sign that, you know, when bad news or bad energies manifest as bullish results, that's usually a sign that the market is even more bullish than previously expected. So keep an eye out here on precious metals. They're looking pretty strong. Let's take a look at USO, the crude oil fund. We are in the time band for a primary cycle low here. And again, you have Jupiter signatures coming up, and Jupiter is the co-ruler of the energy market along with Neptune. So keep an eye on this as well. You do have the Jupiter-Neptune sextile coming up as well. So don't be surprised if a bottom here is complete in the coming days. I want to jump over to the cryptocurrency market since you're seeing a really nice bid here in Bitcoin and Ethereum. This is a really good sign. I like the idea of this potentially being a primary cycle low on May 1st. If not, it was at least a major cycle low. But again, all these conjunctions in Taurus, we know that Uranus has been really important for crypto during its transit through Taurus. Taurus, especially Venus in Taurus, is a very significant transit for Bitcoin. You usually see 20% or greater moves. So that means we're either going to be going to 52,000 or 68,000 in order for this study to be satisfied. That is Venus going through Taurus. And right now it looks like 68,000 will be achieved sooner rather than later. And so there are still some questions surrounding the intermediate term cycle breakdown. We'll be discussing that in greater depth over this weekend with the mid-year webinar. And similar story for Ethereum. We'll be discussing that in greater depth as well. I like the idea of this May 1st low being a primary cycle low in Ethereum. And again, all these conjunctions do provide a geocosmic backdrop for a break above resistance or below support. In my bias is still to the upside. I want to take a look at the US dollar because you're seeing big moves here. The euro seeing a nice bid. Again, Taurus rules currencies, Venus involved. So a lot of moves in financial markets here. The question is whether that tone will change once Jupiter eventually goes into Gemini on the 25th of May, I believe it is. But right now, it's very much a stock market centered and currency market centered environment where you're seeing nice bids across the board in those spaces. So that takes care of everything that I wanted to review with you today. I don't want to get into too much detail. We're going to be covering all of these markets in greater depth and more this weekend during the MMA mid-year webinar. Please check it out. It's a great deal. Ray Merriman, myself, Puyan Zolfargarnia, Ulrich Aspergen, and Wyatt Fellows, and Matthew Kaiser will all be presenting our markets. We're going to be covering a full suite of various markets, so definitely check it out. You don't want to miss it. And you can find all the details at www.mmacycles.com. And then, of course, we just published our monthly cycles report this past week, so you can check out our written updates on all of these markets that I just looked at. And then, of course, the big event that we are planning for and anticipating tremendously is the MMA investment retreat in Lake Bled, Slovenia from September 19th to September 22nd. All details for that can be found at www.mmacycles.com. So that's all for now, everyone. I will see you same time, same place next week.